No,
I just like to eat.
it just told me there's an error occurring with my page. There we go. Now we're good. Now we're all live together. Welcome to the Backpack Show.
Oh,
We did it.
I found a coffee expert. I've been looking and looking for months.
And I drunk dialed a food expert.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it, actually. Like, this turned out well, but it could have been really bad. So.
Never know with a drunk person what you're going to get.
You really
Welcome to the Backpack Show. What do we do here? Why are we even here?
We bring you business insights about success from unusual places. So today we have a coffee expert, Trish Rothgeb. She's co-founder and co-CEO and director of coffee and roast master at Wrecking Ball Coffee. She is also a licensed Q grader. We'll talk about what that means, but basically she's like a judge for the organization that decides who's coffee experts. So she's like an expert among experts.
And I have a story about that.
You do, but first, and you drunk tweeted an authored food expert, Kristy Gardner, and she's fantastic. So as it turns out, that was a lucky.
Well, Kristy wrote a book called Cooking with Cocktails, which might be partly how the drunk thing came around. And then the other part was that she also runs She Eats for, I think, like 10 years, talking about all kinds of food from the hinterlands of Canada. So
hi, Chloe.
We've got a big show. We've got the whole gang.
Someone said coffee.
Hey, and you cannot wait to get some of this Wrecking Ball coffee. Bring it on. Hey, Pop.
Your dad's ready. So we were thinking we need like a backpack show. Now we need like a backpack show cocktail.
Backpack show. Yes, we do. Hey, Michelle's here.
No, and Deb.
I like Michelle.
So I would ask you, normally I ask you like why you chose this particular guest, but you were drunk. So I'm like, I don't know. Who knows?
Well, you know smart people and you know good people. And I will tell you that one thing that happens when you have maybe had a beverage or a substance or, kind of a different mind state is that you realize you see them in a different way before. That's one of the other interesting fun things about spirits is you look around and you go, that's more interesting than I thought it was. And then boom, and then you get really excited and then you dig in and you go, there's actually some substance. So
actually,
well,
maybe leave the actually off.
Well, can I tell you what a lot of drunk people do? They say this looks amazing, and then something happens and nothing good goes on.
And it's not
so good. But this is good. Kristy's got some there is what I'm trying to say.
She does. Can I get a tour of Carrie's shelves?
Particularly the Funkos?
But like maybe later. I have a theme of women empowerment happening up there. There's like Wonder Woman and Ruth from Glow and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I have some cool ones up there. But I also have like Back to the Future just because
LGBTQ Batman.
Fine, show off. Why don't you?
That's it. That's all I get. So I'm gonna bring Kristy on so we don't do this. Anyway, fine. She has better ones. You have RBG. You have RBG, right?
I do.
You win.
I do.
Hi, Kristy Gardner.
Hello. Hi.
Good morning. Super early morning, just like my mother and my father.
Yes, it's very early right now.
She Eats is what you kind of are known for the most, maybe, or I don't know. Are you known more for that or your book about cocktails?
She Eats has been around a lot longer. The book about cocktails is newer, so I would say probably She Eats.
Gotcha.
She does. By the way,
yeah, it's good. It's the best kind of people.
I mean, it's the best way to stay alive that I've found. So I think I'll continue to do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variety on, like, I mean, when you just come and look at the first part of the site, just the first top three things. You get spiced cauliflower steaks. A lot of people are going to want to ask about that. Margarita week, by the way. So mint cucumber and smoky jalapeno margarita, which I'm into the jalapeno part of that. And then vanilla pudding with bourbon and macerated strawberries. Talk just a little bit about what gets your eye on She Eats and what makes it worthy for you to want to stick it onto the site.
And what does macerated mean? Like, what did you do to those strawberries?
Just chewed on them.
Like a baby bird.
Yeah, just baby bird it back to people. Well, macerated basically means it's just sitting in sugar, and it just sort of lets all the juices and all the yumminess come out. In terms of what makes it onto the site, it's typically seasonal produce. Gets me really excited in ways that is we can't talk about on the air. And I get really excited too about different kinds of spirits and locally, what's the word I'm looking for right now? Locally fed meat, grass-fed meat. So it really just depends on what's happening on the seasons and what I feel like putting in my mouth that day.
So
you
go
also
ahead.
do marketing too, right? So I'm trying to figure out how all the pieces kind of fit together for you. Food and cocktails and also marketing.
Yeah. It's been a weird kind of 10-year journey in that. I started She Eats in 2010 as a response to a class that I took in university that was sort of shocking to me when I learned about the industrial food system and wanted to share all of that information with as many people as I possibly could. And so that's sort of how She Eats started. And it's evolved over the years to become a little less political, a little bit more community-based, really. And the marketing came in when I had moved to Toronto after I graduated university. I had been working in the restaurant industry for a very long time and didn't want to do that anymore. And so I tried getting a quote unquote real job. I lasted about 4 months. Oh, they're the worst.
4 whole months. Go, girl.
4 whole months, and needed to figure out a way to bring in some kind of income. And at the time, I had already been working on doing some marketing and some very light HTML edits for other food blogging friends. And so they suggested, well, why don't you just start charging for that? And 9 years later, that's what I've been doing. And the two of them just kind of fit nicely together. One sort of grew out of the other.
You have like a buffet for work.
Mix and match it a little. What makes it to that food blog? What makes you say that's going on this thing because that's what we have to do? And how much do you feel beholden or not at all to representing Canada, in the food that you create? That's a big thing in Canada.
It is a big thing. I'm probably one of the least. I don't mean this in a judgmental way, but I am one of the least patriotic people you'll probably meet. I actually have a lot of issues about nationalism. So
not Carol. Carol's good with it.
Yeah. Right on, Carol. It's just not really my thing. So I don't really think too much about what is quote unquote Canadian. I'm more concerned with what I can procure from my backyard or at the farmer's market at that particular time, because that's usually what's seasonal and what's local, and what you can get, because Canada is such a big country. You can get certain things at the farmer's market here in Vancouver year round, whereas when I was living in Toronto, that was actually really, really hard. So
one of the things you mentioned was how the industrial food system, like the food processing system, and we recently had on Kristy Canty, was it, who made Farmageddon, the documentary about raw milk and how the government kind of cracked down on all these raw milk farmers and stuff. So when you talk about how you got into it because you were interested in doing something about the food process, like tell me more about that. Unpack that a little bit for me. How do we get from that to cooking with cocktails?
Well, yeah, it's a little bit, and that's sort of the evolution of the brand, really. It started out with me being shocked at the way that animals were treated, the way farm workers were treated in most of the industrial food system. There's a lot of videos online you can go watch, all the horrors. It's terrible.
Yeah, I won't.
Yeah, it's not a lot of fun. But basically, it started with that and me sharing those politics, and then developing a bit of a love for food beyond just the political system of the way food is produced. I didn't grow up wanting to cook. I didn't grow up wanting to make drinks. I actually thought I would live on a diet of Kraft Dinner and ketchup for most of my life.
Yes, but without the ketchup for me. But yeah, I mean, I'm not that exotic.
It's pretty fancy. It's pretty fancy. And then I just started to develop a love of cocktails, and part of that is working in the restaurant industry for over a decade. Like I was a server, I was a bartender. Eventually, all of these skills that I had developed over the years just sort of culminated into a passion for something that that tastes good, looks good, and quite often gets you drunk. Which was why I was so excited when Chris invited me to come on the show when he was wasted.
While drunk, yeah.
Well, he was, I was going to say tipsy, but let's be honest.
Yeah,
So,
no, I was
but you know, who
but
cares how the food tastes if you're drunk? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
at that point, everything is great.
So, Kristy, with bars and bartending and all that, there's a couple different ways that gets done in a bar. So, depending on the kind of setting and whatever you go into, there's the bars that you go into, and you're never going to get an order that's not a beer or a shot. You know, you're never going to get a chance to make a cocktail. On the others, you get the ooh la la people who come in and they're like, you know, can you make the Calabria's Phrygian? And they're like, the what? And you're like, you know, and you're just forever in your Mr. Boston. Where are you in the spectrum?
What day is it?
Fancy or not at all?
What day is it?
Tuesday. Where are you on a Tuesday at like 10 a.m.?
Yeah, right here. It really depends on what is happening that day. Some days I really love to just go sit and have picklebacks at the local dive bar, which are delicious and troubling at the same time. And then
Kristy, what's a pickleback?
One of Canada's favorite bands.
Yeah.
That sounds wrong.
Yeah. A pickleback is a shot of Jameson chased with a shot of pickle juice.
Got it. Continue.
If you put just a little wedge of cheese on there, it tastes just like a McDonald's cheeseburger.
Whoa. That blows my mind.
I know.
Okay.
I know. And then other times I like to go get fancy and have some nice wine or Negronis or a classic and a favorite.
So how do you bring these two things together though in a way that like basically what inspired you to create a cookbook about cooking with cocktails specifically? There's like a gazillion cookbooks, but yours has, you know, you put your own spin on it. So what inspired you? Were you drunk at the time?
It's too many picklebacks. I had actually received a email from a publisher in New York who had found me on Instagram. They really liked my artwork, Countryman Press, W.W. Norton. And they wanted to know, would I shoot the cover of this other cookbook that I actually owned the first edition of. They were re-releasing it. And they asked if I would shoot the cover of this cookbook. And I was like, absolutely. I'm really excited about that. They asked if I would shoot the cover of his next cookbook. And I was like, obviously I will do that. And then it was almost like a little PS at the bottom of the email and said, would you like your own cookbook? And we went back and I kind of sat there and shook. Like I just vibrated for a little while and jumped up and down and was like, yes, I want my own cookbook. And so we went back and forth on a few different ideas and ended up settling together on cooking with cocktails, which
Chris,
is
isn't that how you got your first book?
That's
Like
sort of
like,
how
hey,
I got
wanna
my
write a book?
first book. Just random. Hey, you want to write a book? Okay.
Yeah.
So how many recipes, Kristy? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's all right. It's 100 recipes.
Wow.
And alcohol is infused into every dish.
So were you pulling together recipes then that you already had been working on, or did you like have to make up some new ones? And you did a lot of drinking and a lot of cooking. Like, how did this go?
My bar was stacked.
Nice.
About 10% of maybe 10% of the recipes were things that were already published on She Eats. The rest of them were brand new.
Wow. And so you had to try them out. So do you invite over all your Canada friends? Like, could Carol Alaloof in the comments here pop over and
Absolutely, she could.
sample? I mean, like, you know, post-pandemic when you work on the next edition.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Dean says Canadians are weird. Come on now.
Yeah, well, he's talking from inside. So listen, I got to ask you a question or two because first off, you did all your own photography. Is that right?
Yes.
For your site and everything? So because you're also a photographer, because why not? Right?
Yeah.
Like
also,
one does.
One thing I noticed is also that not only that, but every kind of post title or recipe title makes people want to take a look at it. Like the most stunning quick pickled red onions and, you know, grated horseradish root, also known as death by chemical weaponry.
That's the marketing.
Right? This is how it all ties together, isn't it? Like this, She Eats is the culmination of all these things for you.
It is. And it's weird because I don't normally think of it that way. I just think of it as this is a lot of fun for me and my community is really into it, and I just show up and do what I'm going to do. But you're right. You're absolutely right. There is marketing tied in there. I just don't realize it's happening when I'm doing it.
Well, I'll give you one more step, and then we're kicking you back for a little bit, and you can wait, and then we'll do sponsor stuff and all that sort of stuff. But here's the start of Cozy Coffee Cocktail Coffee Old Fashioned. How are you at adulting? Like, for real?
How are you at adulting? Did you?
Yeah.
What does
That's
that
the
mean?
thing. That's what people say. That's a phrase that I'm not adulting today. It's a verb now.
Mhm.
It's a thing. So
Mhm.
I'm not so good at it, at least not in the way I once thought I should be. We all learn from example. Am I right? My parents hunkered down in careers for most of their adult lives. They thoughtfully and attentively raised my brother and I, and they invested effort to toe the line until they retired with savings in the bank.
I feel
So
like you
skip a little.
prepared these remarks about your parents.
I'm not so
Have you
young.
delivered these before?
I'm not so young. In fact, I just turned 39 last week again, and I don't have any. I put in the again, like the moon or Chris Hemsworth pants, but I'm good with that. And so anyway, it's one of these story / recipe kind of things. I have a kind of a, there's people that have an opinion about story recipes.
Yep.
They get grumpy about it.
We sure
You
do.
really have to deliver to make it past that grade. How do you grade yourself on that one?
Well, it depends on who you're talking to.
How do you grade yourself? I'm talking to Kristy.
I think I'm A+.
That's good. I like that grade.
Yeah, I won't settle for anything less.
I like that answer.
So
All right.
Carol wants to know if you actually get buzzed off your food, and Chloe's like asking for a friend.
The alcohol is it doesn't actually cook off. That's a myth, a fallacy. You won't get buzzed off eating it generally unless you eat, like a
A
whole
lot, yeah.
a whole champagne cake or something. But it does take off the sharpness of the alcohol, and some of it does cook off, but not all of it.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Hey, Samson. All right. So, Kristy, thank you so much. That was so good. Thanks for getting us into your world, showing us a little bit more about She Eats. And stick around if you can. We'll do a little tiny panel at the end. Grab
Get
you
that
back.
book, everybody. You can get
Yep.
buzzed off your cooking, but you have to eat a lot of it.
That's right. Thanks, Kristy. Wow. I've learned. I feel
I want a
feel
champagne
schooled.
cake. No, so
Who
what's
doesn't?
cool? So while we were talking, actually, a comment, can I find it now? Came through that. Oh, Deb. Deb said, I love that Kristy's tapping into all her sides. Why pick one when you can mash them up? Like, we didn't talk a lot about it, but she actually has like a marketing side of her business, Peppercorn Creative. So she does actually do marketing and stuff as part of her portfolio career. So I think
It's a
that's so smart.
portfolio career, like they say.
That's the only
You know
way
what you
any of
can
us
do?
is going to make a living. There are very few career people who do just one thing for one company their whole life now. You kind of can't. So
No, that's absolutely true. And I remember reading every story of mine sounds like a freaking old man story now. I remember reading like 20 years ago.
I walked 2 miles to work uphill both ways.
In my head, it's like a few years ago when I was working at my wireless telecom business, which I was working at in the 1990s. So over 20 years ago, I remember reading an article that said we're going to have 5 completely different careers in our lifetime. And I remember thinking, that's baloney. Like, maybe some people, maybe me, but we have like 5 careers a month, it seems like right now. So,
Yep.
And you're not safe. My friends at some of the biggest companies in the world, thousands and thousands of people laid off Disney, for instance. My friend who works at Boeing going, I'm not so sure I got a job here anymore. I said, You're not sure? Like, there's press every few months about how Boeing's not having a good time. You're in a rough time. You better make your own show. Boop. You're sponsored by StreamYard. SeaBrogan.me/StreamYard. You could make your own show, so you don't have to go to work. You could be like Kristy and drink and make recipes.
Champagne cakes.
Something. It sounds really good, doesn't it? Spongy and
do what you
sparkly.
want.
Make a show.
Coach Woodard is like, hey, portfolio career, like being an attorney and a marketing person. But I've had at least 5. I'll think about that, Coach. And you don't even know about my after hours. Yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
You good?
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me. You were saying StreamYard. Do you make a show?
Excuse me.
Like this one. Sorry,
like
Dad.
This
Continue.
Piece of shit show that we can just talk over each other.
I'm so sorry, Dad. I didn't realize you were speaking.
Listen up, child. SeaBrogan.me/StreamYard. Make your own goddamn show.
Hey.
I keep slipping into John Mulaney doing his like crying sound. Hey, authors, You could write a cookbook like
I know.
Cooking with Cocktails,
You could.
and it could be really good, and
Mhm.
nobody could read it because you didn't have a really awesome author website.
Correct.
You can make a cool website just like this one, pub-site.com. Carrie, this site costs a lot of money, and
No,
it's
it
hard to
doesn't.
make.
It is not.
Want to talk about it?
Yes. So there's a 14-day free trial. So you
Coach
can
Woodard
see
said
for
something.
yourself how easy it is to use. So pub-site.com, it's specifically set up for authors. FSB Associates is a book publicity firm. They really didn't want to be in the website business, but their authors wrote these amazing books, and then we're spending like thousands of dollars to get a cruddy website that didn't work half the time. And they're like, okay, so I guess we got to help them make some websites. So now they do. And this is so, so easy. 14-day free trial. See how easy it is to do it yourself. If you super don't want to, they'll do it for you. For $499, it will build you a website that will promote you and your book, your appearances, all the things. They've got everything you need. pub-site.com.
Putting independent web designers out of business, because why would you go with a $2,000 site design when you can get one for $500? Also sponsors a person of the day.
Yay. And it's actually $19.99 a month if you build your own website to have them host it. That's all it is.
Hey, look, Deb's here. She's in Biloxi.
Carol, thanks for buzzed.
Testing Kristy's recipes.
I wish.
I've drank in the mornings. It's not so bad. This is water.
You're like, cheers, everybody. So great. Fabulous way to start the day. And agree with you, Carol. Taste testing behind the scenes. We wouldn't do it behind the scenes. We would just do it.
It's
right
this
here.
Is the scene.
Right out front.
Yesterday's guest, Terry Leidick, when we were talking about drinking something, we made a joke about that. Carrie made some kind of joke about her drinking alcohol or something. She goes, "You can't tell, it's clear." This is a great grandmother. And she made that joke.
Well, how do you think she raised all them kids?
Yeah. Great grandma drinks because you cry.
This is what my mom is like. The one time I saw my mom tipsy, only one time at like a nursing event, we went to like a nursing school reunion. She got drunk off Brandy Alexander's. For those of you just joining us, you'll have to ask your parents what that is, but that's like getting drunk on Harvey Wallbangers. It's like not a thing that happens in modern times.
It's like eating a bowl of candy with every sip of alcohol.
Really strange.
Okay. We got to get some coffee in our body. Hey, Deb's here.
Party like it's 1999.
That was good. Thank you for explaining it, though, because we wouldn't have got it. Yep. The ambassador's here. I asked him to be a guest while sober, by the way.
Oh, good. That's always preferable.
So, thank you. Let's grab Trish.
Although I think it's working out. So
she came in like a wrecking ball. Push your button. Hey, Trish.
Hey.
No.
Save us. Save us from ourselves.
We went off the rails.
Coffee to the rescue.
Coffee to the rescue. Like once again. Listen, so you roast coffee, you kind of live coffee, but Coach Woodard's here, so we have to ask an important question. What the heck were you before coffee person?
Yeah. Actually, that story kind of goes together in my mind, and hopefully it makes sense to other people. I studied art in college.
Naturally.
Art student, if you're a sort of coherent art student and you know a little bit about the way things are going to go for you, you don't take student loans. So I worked all the way through college as a barista starting out. And then I realized that I could make a little bit more money if at the place I was working, I just roasted before school. So I roasted coffee, and the guy at that little roastery didn't really teach me a lot. He's like, "This is how you turn it on. I'm going to go golf." A little bit more money for roasting. So I didn't even realize that was, in 1990, I think, the year 1990. And it just became, believe it or not, more interesting than art. So 10 years into my art career, I was still stealing away, trying to take coffee jobs here and there and roasting and learning about coffee, just thinking it was like my fallback for being an artist, but it emerged as being the more interesting and important thing in my life.
See, when they told me, hey, you could get into roasting professionally, I was like, hell yes. But I thought they meant making fun of people.
Right.
No good at roasting coffee.
Yeah, you could do that.
Kelly's joining. I went to school with Kelly in like nursery school, and she says, not like my mom wouldn't get drunk. I'm telling you, actually 2 times, both at nursing reunions, Brandy Alexander's.
Oh my gosh.
Stay in school.
Trish, so when you say that about, it kept stealing your passion away, and it was weirdly more exciting than art. Is that because, and I'm drawing a comparison to like software people that I know and service driven people I know, there's something about transforming something physically, the way roasting a bean is, that chemical stuff, the sense of this is going to go in someone's belly. Like, is that what it was? Talk about that.
Yeah, it was that. So I would do these things as a young person trying to get my art career on track, and I would go early in the morning and roast coffee and get some work done before I would go to my studio and then go teach kids art or whatever else I was doing. And I would see the green beans going into the roaster. I would baby them and coax them through and bring them out. And then in that place that I was roasting in, I would see the baristas take it, serve it to somebody, and I could actually see it consumed into a person. I could see them consuming it, and I felt like this is like the ultimate kind of very basic crafts person's performance art, if you will. And it was so satisfying every time I saw it happen. I'm like, and then to watch someone finish their cup of coffee and know that like it's much better than making a painting and selling it and then being like, I wonder if that person still likes it, and what do they think about that? Like it's gone from you. After you make art, it's gone from you. And so, that process was really important to me, I found out.
I have tattoos, and when I went back to get a second one, the artist took a good long look at my first one. I think that's hard. It's hard to let your art go.
Yeah, but it lives outside after it's done.
It does. So what's the difference between most coffee roasters and like an expert coffee roaster, like the kind you are that actually grades or certifies other coffee roasters? So we have real quality coffee experts.
What I am a kind of as a side thing to my career with my own coffee company, Wrecking Ball, is I'm a Q grader through the Coffee Quality Institute, which is a worldwide organization. We could get into that more if you wanted to, but it's kind of
not a lot. I just wanted, I didn't know that this was a thing.
Yeah.
To me, this is like learning that Men in Black was real.
Well, and that's the story I want to tell after. So keep going.
Yeah. And to be clear, I don't certify or judge other people's coffee roasting companies, their product. What we do is Q graders, and we're all over the world. A lot in Colombia, many in Ethiopia, mostly places where coffee is produced. And what we do is we take the green coffee, usually in the export-import stage of the value chain, and we sort of say, this is a specialty grade coffee. So from there, usually then roasters may buy it because it's been certified or has an opinion on it. But we don't put an opinion on the roasted product, so if it's dark roast, light roast, like that's not where we bring our opinions.
It's in the beans.
In the beans.
Yeah. So my story, which has not much to do with you, but has everything to do with rating and all this, is my friend Roderick Russell, who amongst other things is a professional sword swallower and mentalist, was in Portland, Maine for an event. And he said, let's go get some coffee. Now, this in my born and raised in Maine, lived in Massachusetts head is like Dunkin's or who cares. But Roderick finds the only almost good coffee shop in Portland, Maine, his opinion, because he's part of that group that you mentioned. He's not a Bart, and he's not a grader, but well, Rob and I used to like work at a Bard practically for 2 years. He's not a grader, but he is a member of that group so that he can like pay attention to all your news. So he starts asking the guy behind the counter questions like, what types of something, you probably know the word I'm not thinking of. What types of something does this coffee have? Can you tell me a little bit about this, about it? And it was like almost like that scene in Portlandia, the first episode where they're talking about how the chicken's life was before they ate.
Yeah.
And I'm staring at him. The coffee guy's staring at him. He's like, I don't know any of that. It's just coffee. Would you like some of it? And I thought that was when I realized that like that curtain peeled back and that there's this world that I don't know.
Yeah.
The coffee guy's like,
do we need to know this?
Drink it.
Does anybody need to know this?
Barista, sometimes it's terrible because the barista's put in that in-between position, that customer service position. Some baristas get a little bit of information. They're taught just enough to like go kind of crazy with it when you approach them, and you don't want to know all that stuff.
A little knowledge is a dangerous
is this
thing.
going to be like, sometimes you're at the point where you're like, is this a dark roast or light roast? Is this going to be heavy or light? Could this one take cream? Like that might be your level. Your level, I just don't want it bitter. I don't know where your level is, but a good barista will find you at your level. And if someone comes in as like a super nerd about coffee and tries to ask all these questions, maybe the barista knows and doesn't know, but one of the best things you can do in customer service is just be like, oh, I don't know that, but maybe I can find out for you, and hopefully help you find out and get back to them. But does everyone have to know that stuff? No, only if you find it interesting. It's just like people who go down that rabbit hole for wine or cheese or anything else. Like,
I used to read the side of the Pepperidge Farm cookie bags. So I am the person that would ask.
Some people are really into the ingredients like that. And some people are really into the social justice part or the sustainability piece or whatever piece they enter into coffee for, or why, the taste, whatever it is. They'll go, there's many avenues, right?
John had a question about that a little bit earlier. John said he really wants to know about your thoughts about the future of coffee considering climate change. Are there any innovations that are going to go save his morning addiction?
Well, at this point, climate change is pretty, it's terrible for so many reasons, right? But there are other factors, there's socioeconomic factors. So for example, many things are a problem and have been a problem with coffee for decades. The price of everything in our world has gone up, but the price we pay the farmer for their product has not. It's been stagnant forever. And specialty coffee, the fishishi favorite stuff, has not saved the day. It's only a small portion at the very tippy top of that pyramid. So it hasn't saved anyone since we sort of kind of got into it about 30 years ago, 20 years ago, to make coffee more expensive. But there's also things like, does a farmer's kid, if the farmer does well and sends their kid to college, is that kid going to come back and become a 4th generation, 5th generation farmer? Maybe not. Maybe they're going to stay in the city. Is that farmer then going to sell his land to, if you're in Hawaii and you have a coffee farm for 4 generations, wouldn't you rather just have them build a resort on there, make a ton of money, or some condos? And so those are some other things that are encroaching on it, as well as climate change. But we're fairly positive. There's a lot of work from a lot of organizations that are working on this problem, both economic, socioeconomic problems, and the cultivation problem.
So John, you'll be safe, but maybe stockpile just in case.
I would just say, and it's not something anyone's going to want to hear, if you want a good cup of coffee, it will, if anyone wants to keep it going, they'll have to raise their prices. And so it might be something that people don't enjoy every single day. Maybe someday our kids or our grandkids will enjoy it 3 times a week instead of every single day, or there'll be a lot more bringing it home and figuring out how to make it at home.
I think they'll just start demanding more money at their salary negotiations so they can afford it. I would.
Yeah.
Deb says instant gratification watching someone drink what you've roasted and brewed. Most of us have to wait for the satisfaction of smart hard work. Now, Deb, depending what area you're in, sometimes that never happens. Like when a lawyer manages to, avert disaster for someone, they're never like, I'm so happy. They're like annoyed it happened in the first place. I'm just saying, Coffee is simpler.
I was thinking too about the art aspect of it. What you said earlier is, when your painting goes off onto somebody's wall, I mean, it could be your heart, but it's a commodity like anything else at that moment. And you really get like, will this go with my couch? And that's why coffee, there's just a little less soul attached to it, even if you care and love it a lot.
With that, you could pay a ton of money for a great lot of green coffee and roast it perfectly and have it score in the 90s point wise, and then bring it to the coffee shop and have someone dump a ton of sugar and cream in it. And you're like, oh, thank you for coming.
I said, I'm sorry. I don't know what else I can do, Trish. It has to almost not taste like coffee for me to drink it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Dean wants to know, do you consider things like the unicorn frappuccino an abomination?
No, I feel I'm not. I've been in the business so long that I've seen so many things, and sometimes we speak openly about gateway drinks, like this is the way you get into coffee. And some people never change. And my husband and I are both been in coffee forever and know good coffee and tasted the best coffees in the world. And sometimes we'll be driving along and he's like, you know what? I want like a Frappuccino right now. Let's go get one. So you just compartmentalize it. It's like when you roll into a diner on a road trip and you're like, this is going to be diner coffee. I'm prepared for that.
So you slum sometimes.
Well, you get all kinds of coffee. The spectrum is there and none of them are dying off.
Can we talk about the name? I've been wondering. Wrecking Ball Coffee.
Oh, yeah. Wrecking Ball Coffee was a placeholder name. It was our working title for our coffee company. Because when we took a road trip together, we're partners in life and business as well. So we took a road trip to clear our heads and we were somewhere in New Jersey, I think, driving up the Eastern Seaboard. And I saw a wrecking ball breaking down a building. And I was like, hey, you never see that anymore. Because it's always that big claw thing that tears a building down now.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we talked about branding and the idea that some things are in people's minds when you say the word, like a wrecking ball. You can see the rig, you can see the wrecking ball. And it's also something that people don't use anymore in their conversation. We don't talk about
Miley Cyrus influence.
That's all I'm doing is singing Miley Cyrus over and over again.
This was the song. It was before this, of course. I loved the song Wrecking Ball by Emmylou Harris, but when I was thinking anyway, so we talked about how it was going to be a small coffee company to begin with, and it was all about breaking down ideas and norms about coffee. And our logo is just supposed to be this little toy, almost like a little tiny fun thing. And so it's not, Wrecking Ball's never about like smashing things down. It's always like tink tink, a little toy breaking down little.
You just break it a little at a time.
Yeah. Just as much as a small company could do.
John says he's willing to pay higher prices if the money gets distributed up and down the chain. Roasters deserve to be paid, as do the farmers.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oops. I didn't mean to hit that button. You're
and
big.
Chloe wants to know. She says, such a basic question, but someone recently told me that when you make coffee at home, you should put the milk in first. Is that part true?
It's great.
Is there milk in coffee?
Why don't you just be patient? How do you know how much milk you need until you know how much you know?
No, I think it's just like when you do cereal. Do you put milk in first or after?
No. What a mess that would be.
Anything goes. It's going to be the same ratio. The ratio is the issue. Yeah.
Aww. Kate sent him. Hi, Greg. Welcome. Yeah, I love the naming stories. I needed to know. And whether you do your own advertising.
We're at this part where, it's my husband and me, and we do kind of everything. We don't have any salespeople, which is probably why we're still pretty small. And we don't have a marketing staff. My husband's his name's Nick Cho. He's really savvy guy. He's a very savvy guy. Some of you might see him on Twitter, but he's pretty smart. He's a pretty smart guy, including some of our social justice statements that have gone out about our company have been a way to bring attention to our mindset and where we come from. And that's all kind of like a way for people to know who we are without actually putting an advertisement in a magazine or something.
So, salespeople. So when somebody asks a question, they better be prepared for the whole answer because you're like, I'm a Q grader. Should have a seat and I'll tell you all about this bean.
Yeah, I typically don't do sales at all. I just support.
Let's talk about the birth of your coffee.
Yeah.
Take a journey with me.
And happy to see Greg here. Glad that Kate brought you on. Kate is a force of energy. She is her own wrecking ball. That is for sure. We're going to drag Kristy back in because it's time for a little bit of a panel. Hey, Kristy, welcome back.
Hello.
Now you know what you can throw into the coffee drinks that you make. Now we have a friend in coffee.
Perfect.
Just down the coast, a little bit. A little bit down the corner.
Let's make this happen. If we bring Ivy's Tea Company into this mix, we have all sorts of
all the beverages.
Yeah.
I really realized that we're building basically a grocery store.
You book drunk, I book hungry. I don't know.
That's how it goes.
That's what we do.
All right. One question to the both of you. And, Trish was just touching on this, and I'm curious to know Kristy's take on it as well. Business for a very long time has been run where you leave your beliefs and your visions and your values kind of over here, and you just make stuff and try to sell the product. Neither of you operate that way. You heard some of what Trish said, and I'll let her circle back on that answer. But Kristy, what's your take on that?
I think in an era where social media marketing, content marketing is so prevalent, it's really important that businesses, whether it's an individual or a mid-sized company, a large company, they just show up authentically and vulnerably. I think that you can't leave your vision or your values over here anymore. People can see through that. People care, and they want you to care about them as well. And it just, I think, makes business more fun to bring that in. So that's sort of the way I have done business and the way I have evolved my brands. And those are definitely the companies that I like to buy from as well.
That's definitely, I mean, people are buying from companies that share their values, and they can't do that if they don't know what your values are.
Exactly.
So,
hey, I like this question. Not understanding what's the use of this? What's the use of the show? That's a great question. These are business insights from unusual places. So that you don't just talk to the same old bull turd heads that sit around you all the time. You get to learn from coffee roasters and cooks and fascinating people. That's the value.
and people who, instead of taking a job and just trying to make it work in selling insurance or whatever, thought, I want to roast coffee for a living, or I want to make a cookbook. So we tend to choose people who struck out on their own, made their own path. And that is the commonality we find in every single person we invite on the show, because we think they're interesting. They're interesting because they chose to strike out on their own path and not do what everybody else said they should do.
Right.
That's
We don't
the
talk
common
to a
thread.
whole lot of employees. We tend to talk to people who make their own paths.
On the other hand, there's only like 70 billion other things you could look at if you don't like it. So
Go find the show.
thanks for stopping by.
Hooray. All right. Listen. Thank you, Kate. Make your own show. I actually have Backpack Show.online coming, so that'll be coming soon. Hey, it's time for Person of the Day. So let's dig right on into there. Person of the Day for today.
Sponsored by PubSite, pub-site.com.
Thank you. PubSite. Sponsored by Dean Shaw, who came by today and spent some time and told us Canadians are weird because he's Canadian. You are now entitled to an apple just like the one you see on the screen. You just got to go to a store, buy your own apple. You're covered.
And make an apple teeny with it. That's what I was saying. We need like a Backpack Show apple teeny.
Apple teeny sounds like a good one. All right. It is time for the most important question of the show. What goes into your backpack? This could be something physical. It could be something metaphorical. It could be something like hope or determination or
An avocado.
An avocado. You
I
avocado taker.
I took his favorite one as an avocado.
Could be a piano.
Karen Putz said her smartphone, because she uses it. She's deaf and she uses it to make like instant transcriptions.
Nikki Porcher said a whole bunch of black women, and now we won't let her back on the show.
Because Nikki Porcher runs an organization called Buy From a Black Woman. So what she meant was her network of accomplished black female entrepreneurs. What she said was black women. And so that was one of my probably biggest breakdowns, where I just laughed for like 5 straight minutes. And then she started laughing. We couldn't. It was awful. It was awful. Chris was disgusted with me. Let's not relive it.
Let's pretend we're ending the show right now.
Let's not say people in your backpack.
Kristy.
Any other answer, we're wide open to it. So what goes in your backpack for success?
Well, right now I kind of want a little bit of whiskey, but I would say I would say probably the and this kind of goes back to what we just talked about, but the philosophy or theme that I have kind of carried with me through my many years in business is to show up for yourself and to show up for other people, to be authentic, and to be genuine in who you are and what you want. I think a lot of people in business make the mistake of chasing the money or doing things that you're told they should do or shouldn't do. And my, as you called it, career portfolio is so diversified, I guess, because I followed my, not necessarily my passion, but my skills and my interests and my curiosity. And all of that boils down to being authentic and showing up. So I would say put that in there.
Sounds perfect. Trish, what about yourself? What goes in the backpack?
It's a hard question because there's so much you want to go to. But I decided to go technical. which might not be everyone's thing, but here it is. I have an example of a little scale called a
Nice.
scale. And a lot of people who are just like lovers of coffee, but can't seem to figure out how to make it themselves. I don't know why I make like Uncle Joe makes terrible coffee. He's always making terrible coffee. Why is my coffee better than? You have to have a recipe, and a recipe is based on weights, right? And if you don't want to do that, that's cool. Go out and have someone else do it for you. Plenty of coffee places to do that. But if you want to make it at home, probably the thing you need most is a scale. It's not a matter of 1 or 2 spoonfuls. It's about get your recipe that you like for coffee, ground coffee to water ratio, and keep on making that. Find it and make it, and then you'll make it the way you like it every time. It takes a second. It's not that hard.
Mhm.
And plus you need this for other things too, like to whatever way.
Here's what I don't get about bad coffee is you choose to do that to yourself every day. Like instead of finding a recipe, you're just like, I don't know, we'll see what happens today.
Out one time, take a minute, figure it out.
And if it comes out good, you don't know why, Trish. You don't know why. In the backpack, Kristy, show up for yourself, and Trish, scale. I think most of us are staying away from scales as a rule right now. But that
The
one
bigger
makes sense.
kind, yeah.
Carol's reminding me of the giggle fit I had when Nikki Porcher was on. I have not forgotten. Chris does not let me forget.
Nope.
And Mike says sustainable denim bow ties.
That's the ambassador. He'll be on later a week or so from now.
Love it.
Listen up. I have a story about my grandmother about this too, because of the scale. It made me think about the fact the way people make different kinds of coffee. So my grandmother's oldest son, his name's Steve Brogan. He likes the worst coffee. He likes 7-Eleven coffee. And you're not going to believe this.